Hello everyone and welcome. In this video I'm going to be sharing my thoughts on Fear the Walking Dead Season 7 Episode 11. As is a norm with all my videos, I won't be holding back on any spoilers, so please do keep that in mind. Anyway, without further ado, let's begin. I think that this episode is the best episode so far this season. Now admittedly, that isn't really saying much considering that the previous episode was about a dude catching butterflies and the one before that was about a dude playing the bagpipes. But overall, I didn't hate this episode. Now, that's not to say that I think this episode is, phenomenal in any way, shape, or form, because it's not. I have seen some people on Reddit say that, oh, this is one of the best episodes ever. This is like an Erickson era episode. I don't agree with that. I just think this episode is okay. It's passable, it's okay. I only cut myself twice whilst watching this episode, which is a big improvement. Normally I cut myself a lot more, so only one cut on each arm is making progress. Please kill me. This episode mainly focuses on Wes, Luciana and Daniel, and it's nice to see Daniel and Luciana in particular actually given something to do, because these are two of, the longest standing characters on the show alongside Alicia, and it just seems like the writers have kind of completely forgot about them since Morgan came over. So it's nice to see these characters actually have the spotlight for once, even if it is a shame that it took so long for these characters, to get a chance to show what they can do. I mean, I think Luciana has more lines in this episode than she does the entire rest of the season. And that's not me joking. Like, honestly, she pops up every now and then to say one line. And in this episode, she's actually given stuff to do. She's given dialogue. She's actually has a reason to exist on this show. So I'm glad that the writers finally remembered who these two were, and they gave them something interesting to do this episode. Daniel is still suffering from memory problems, and he believes that Ofelia is alive and she's out there somewhere. So he leaves Morgan's sub at the start of the episode to go find her. And after he leaves the sub, he's immediately confronted by a walker that kind of sneaks up on him. And when the walker goes for him, Daniel for some reason just takes off his gas mask. I didn't really understand what this was about. Why didn't he push the walker away? Why was his immediate reaction to take off his gas mask when he was in a, supposedly radioactive area and there's walkers? And he's like, right, I'll just take my mask off. I don't really know what this was about. Maybe he couldn't see. Maybe that's why he did it. Maybe it was fogged up. I don't know. And I guess the guy is confused, so I do have to give him some slack. But yeah, this was just kind of strange. Wes and Luciana do go after him and they find him outside the sub. And then they run into Arno and his group of stalkers, because this is just what happens on Fear the Walking Dead. Every episode, characters bump into the antagonist. It's like these characters all live within 10 feet of one another, when really they should all be spread out around this, this wasteland. I don't know how characters, they're just finding each other so easily. It doesn't make any sense. But anyway, Arno takes them back to his camp, and that's where we spend most of the episode. And his camp is a real dump. It's basically just vehicles put together, and there's makeshift walkways on top of these vehicles. It's just a mixture of RVs and boats all together, and it looks like they live on the roofs high up above these vehicles, or in some of the vehicles. And yeah, you can tell that these people don't have a nice life, because their camp is, it's horrible. One of the things that I really liked about this episode is that Daniel is back to being the Daniel that I loved, pre-Morgan. He's back to being a badass. He's back to being, his ex-CIA self. He was trained by the CIA, wasn't he? I think he mentions it this episode. And yeah, he's back to doing cool stuff, which is what he should have been doing the last couple of seasons, really, instead of just being sidelined and, spending his time cutting Ginny's hair. He really takes no prisoners in this episode. I mean, he slices this dude's throat open, and he throws Arno into this cage and then, lowers him into a herd, a group of walkers, and he gets eaten to pieces. And he kind of walks off and compliments Arno's Spanish, and whilst he leaves him to die, which is just really cold. But this is the Daniel that I've missed. This is the Daniel that I've missed the last couple of years, and I'm glad he's back. At the start of the episode, Morgan mentions that he knows where some weapons are. He knows where these weapons are located, which he's going to use against Strand, so he's going to go off and find them. But, I mean, where are these weapons? How did he find where these weapons are? Fear seems to do this every week. It kind of starts an episode off with characters talking about something that has happened off screen between episodes, and you watch the episode and you're just like, what? What's going on? What weapons? I don't remember you finding any weapons. How did you find these weapons? Oh, it doesn't matter. We don't need to explain it. Let's carry on. Well, why do they do this every week? It's just confusing and jarring. I know I say this all the time, but I just think it's a bad way to start episodes off by having characters talk about things that we haven't seen. Anyway, the reason why I bring this up is because Arno wants to know where these weapons are, because he knows these weapons exist because he's heard Morgan talking about it over the radio. Something which we, again, haven't seen. But yeah, he knows these weapons exist, so he wants to know where their location is. I don't know why Morgan's group haven't been using some kind of secure frequency, but whatever. So what happens is that Daniel sees a boat at Arno's camp, and he thinks that this boat is the Abigail from Season 2, because he's confused, and he believes that Ofelia is on this boat. So he says to Arno, I'll tell you where the guns are if you give me my daughter back and let me go on that boat and find her. And of course, Arno, he doesn't know where Ofelia is. He doesn't even know who Ofelia is, but he plays along because he wants the location of the guns. But it turns out that Daniel hasn't given them the correct coordinates. He's given them some fake ones because he believes that Arno will send off a load of troops to look for these guns, which will leave him defenseless. So him and, Wes and Luciana can escape and he can kill Arno. I can't remember exactly what happens, but I know they end up in a cell. And Daniel escapes this cell by doing a solid snake. He basically plays dead on the floor. And yeah, I think this is Metal Gear Solid 1, where if you pretend to be dead on the floor, like the guard opens the door and lets you out. And I think you can do the same thing in Metal Gear Solid 3. But anyway, yeah, that just reminded me of those games. But yeah, I kind of felt bad for the guard who actually helped Daniel out. Because, I mean, this guy was like, nice enough or naive enough to check up on him and check that he wasn't dead. And then Daniel thanks him by slicing his throat. Once Daniel realises that Ofelia isn't on the boat and, he's realised that Arno has lied to him, he's got his mindset on killing Arno and he heads off on his own. He, takes off the walkway that connects the boat to the next vehicle, and he rips it off whilst Ofelia and Wes are still on the boat. And he says, I'm doing this to protect you, I don't want you getting involved and getting hurt or whatever. But to me, that just kind of seemed odd, because it's like, yeah, I'm doing this to protect you by leaving you on a boat which you now can't escape from, surrounded by walkers, with no exit. I'm protecting you by leaving you to die on this boat. Yeah, thanks, mate. Thanks, Daniel, for that. Nice one. Fucking idiot. Turns out they would have actually been safer if they just followed Daniel, because Daniel gets to Arno without even encountering one guard, which to me, yeah, was really annoying. I know that Arno sent some of his soldiers off to find the guns, but where was the rest of his crew? Where were the rest of his soldiers? I was expecting to see a scene of Daniel, sneaking up to Arno whilst taking out 4 or 5 guards, stealthily taking them out, showing his CIA, his skills, what he can do. But instead he just walks off and he finds Arno. Well, that was anticlimactic. What was the point in that? He just walks up to him. Where's Arno's men? Oh, I'm going to protect you, Luciana and Daniel, from this non-existent army. I'm just going to walk up to Arno. What was the point? Before Arno succumbs to his injuries and dies, he tells Luciana about this crater full of walkers, which is apparently full of radioactive walkers, which are so dangerous you can't even touch them or get near them. And I'm just getting serious deja vu here, because this is exactly the same scenario that happened in Season 5, where we had those walkers with those, convenient necklaces on that told you that they were radioactive, that you couldn't go near. Why are we doing the same thing again? Why are the writers so obsessed with radioactive walkers? They couldn't even do it right the first time. And now we've got more radioactive walkers. Oh, you can't go near them. Why? Why are we doing the same thing again? Arno dies, and then Luciana goes to give a speech to the rest of his people. Where were these people when Daniel was killing their leader? I don't know. But anyway, Luciana says to them, join us. Join us and fight against Strand. And then they all just go, yep, okay. Like, what? You just killed their leader. Why would they trust you? Yep, I just killed your boss and now you're going to come work with me. Oh, okay then. It shouldn't have been that easy. It should not have been that easy. And I think one of the people from Arno's group, they even say in reply to Luciana, yeah, we'll join you. It's what Teddy would have wanted. Is it? This is a dude who nuked the place. Is this what he would have wanted? You joining Morgan? That doesn't make any sense. How is this anything to do with Teddy? What are you talking about? Anyway, come the end of the episode, it seems that Daniel is finally willing to accept that Ofelia is actually dead. That is, until Luciana says, nope, Ofelia isn't dead. She's alive in Strand Tower and, Strand has her hostage. The reason why Luciana does this is because she wants to use Daniel as a weapon. She believes that if Daniel thinks that Strand has taken Ofelia, he's going to go storming into that tower and, he's going to go full CIA mode and, yeah, just take out everyone and kill Strand. So she's basically using him. And it's not a good thing to do. It's not a nice thing to do, obviously. She's taking advantage of this confused man. But you know what? I liked it because this is the most interesting thing Luciana has done on this show for years. And if Luciana's lie results in us getting some really cool scenes of Daniel fighting Strand at the tower, then I'm all for it. I'm all for it. I think this is an interesting idea. However, I do think it would be more impactful if Daniel was shown to be more of a badass this episode than what we actually got. Because, you know, even though I did say he's back to his old self this episode because he's cold and he's killing people, he does only kill 2 people. He kills like a defenseless guard who's like one dude who looks like he's kind of new to the job, doesn't exactly look like, the toughest character in the world. And then, like I said, he just walks up to Arno without being stopped. But I think if this episode had shown us Daniel like taking down 4 or 5 guards and showing us, giving us a good action scene, then it would have made more sense for Luciana to go, yep, this guy is, look how much of an asset this guy is to us. Look how valuable he could be against the fight with Strand. I need to lie to him. But as it stands, it's like you've lied to this dude because you think he's so valuable and such a, powerful character, a super soldier, just because he killed a guard and walked up to Arno without anyone stopping him. So, yeah, it could have been done better. Wes doesn't like the fact that Luciano is lying to Daniel, so he leaves for Strand's tower, and he phones him up and says he wants to make a deal with him. I'm going to be honest, I just don't really care about Wes. He can do what he wants. It doesn't really bother me. Maybe he's going to die now because of this, but yeah, that doesn't really bother me. I'm not, this scene didn't do anything for me. And Morgan also just so happens to find these weapons, and he does that off screen, these weapons that he mentions at the start of the episode. Overall, this episode obviously has a lot of the same problems that every other episode of Fear seems to have nowadays. And I'm really getting tired of these episodes which only focus on like 1 or 2 characters. Are we ever actually going to get episodes where all the characters are in it and interacting with one another? I'm kind of just sick of these bottle episodes. They need to stop. But, despite all these problems, it is the best episode of the season in my opinion, which I said at the start of the video. And it was okay. I didn't hate it. Like I said, I don't think that this is an amazing episode. I think some people are overhyping it a bit because it has Luciana and Daniel in it, and there's a lot of people who are fans of these characters because they've been in Fear a long time. But yeah, I wouldn't go that far. I just thought it was okay. I thought it was okay. It was bearable. It was passable. It wasn't anything special, but it was alright. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What did you think of this episode? Let me know, and I shall see you all very soon. Take care. Goodbye.
Thank you to my best buddies. Thank you to my best buddies. Thank you to my best buddies for giving me some money.